Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Marketing4Waste Podcast. Hi, George.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. What about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Great, great. I was seeing your website, and what you're doing is something incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been a mission of love and great passion.
Great, great. And please tell me more because I'm very curious. I saw the videos and I saw the rest in your website, and I think it's very interesting because there are a lot of opportunities to expand this business around the world.
That's true. So essentially, this was a vision that came to me 25 years ago. I started out in the solid waste and recycling industry really almost 41 years ago. And my first venture into the business was designing a program to rent waste handling and recycling equipment. And I ended up raising money through private placement limited partnerships, millions of dollars. And I set up a distribution network through 125 independent equipment dealers in the industry in the continental US and rented equipment to many accounts in most of the states in the continental US through this distribution network. And in 1986, when the tax laws changed, I moved away from that, designed my own line of equipment, and then sold that through this dealer network that I had set up. And my mom actually started the first curbside recycling program in the state of California when she was on the city council for a city called San Bruno, which is where the San Francisco International Airport is. And it was a very rudimentary system back then. This was 30 some odd years ago, where they would put one milk carton crate size container for glass bottles, one for plastic, aluminum cans, and tin cans, and then another one for paper and cardboard. And the truck would have 3 compartments in it. So at every single stop, the driver would get out, pick up each container and put it into the compartment of the truck, and then move to the next house and rinse, lather, repeat, same process throughout the whole city. And then when one of the 3 compartments became full, they'd go back to the recycling center and dump these 3 compartments onto a tip floor, and then all the materials would get sorted. They go back and collect. And I thought, this is pretty crazy. It's very labor intensive, very hard on people's backs, not very efficient at all. And so I started looking into what was in the containers and came up with a way that I thought would work to mechanically separate everything. And essentially what I did is I looked into various industries that were sorting materials by dimension, 2D, 3D sorters. And I found that in the agricultural industry, for example, they were using disc screens to separate tomatoes from leaves. So I went to a manufacturer, I designed a screen that I thought would work as a prototype to separate the containers from the fiber, built it, installed it at a customer location, and it worked. And so once that happened, I designed a whole system around this and sold it to a client. Didn't know anything about patents at the time. So before I knew it, there were 6 different manufacturers making the same exact process flow system to sort what was then referred to as single stream recycling, where you put all your recyclables in one container. So I, had a business where I was designing and selling integrated systems for recycling and thought, well, this is great. It works for recycling, but the problem with this is you're asking people in America to sort out what they think is recyclable, put it into a separate container, get it picked up by a separate truck. Didn't make any sense to me. And I was called into a client location in Northern California that was doing it a different way. California enacted a law in 1989 called AB 939, which was essentially an act that required that every single city and government agency in the state of California figure out a way to get to 50% diversion from baseline rates of waste going to the landfills by the year 2000. So what happened was you had all these different consultants descend upon the state of California because every city and government agency had to come up with what was called a source reduction and recycling element, or a plan to get there. And there were two mechanisms that they could use. Excuse me.
No problem.
One was recycling and the other one was composting. So there was a company out of San Francisco called Recology. Back then it was called NorCal.
Okay.
It's now a 100-year-old garbage company that came up with this idea of, hey, let's do a 3-route system. We'll do 1 route for garbage, 1 route for recycling, 1 route for composting. Well, the garbage companies love that idea because they make 75% of their profit off collection and only 25% off disposal and recycling. Okay. So that was a great way to add profits to the bottom line. Very inefficient from the perspective that you're asking people to sort out only the recyclable material. And that's not always very worthwhile from an efficiency standpoint, because you find now today in recycling programs, there's anywhere from 10% on the low end to 40% garbage in with the recycling. So you're picking up garbage with recycling and you're bringing it to a recycling facility, then you're sorting it and you have to pick out all the garbage on the front end on pre-sort because it messes up the quality of the recyclables going forward. So it doesn't work very well. And I was called into this account in Northern California. This is now in 1994. So a long time ago, 26, 27 years ago, that had a different approach to it. It was a rural community, and they decided that instead of having 3 routes, it would be more efficient to have 2. So they came up with a system that they called one big bin, where they would put all their recyclables and all the garbage in one bin, bring it to a mixed waste MRF that was going to get designed, and then sort out the recyclables, and then take the garbage to the adjacent landfill, and then put the yard waste, green waste, in a separate bin and have that collected separately. So they'd have 2 routes versus 3 and save a lot of money. And as a matter of fact, it works great. And it did save a lot of money because the average can rate that customers pay in that county, it's Placer County, California, is about $25 per month for a 96-gallon can that includes recycling and waste, and a 96-gallon can that includes yard waste. If you look in other areas of California throughout the whole state, 99.6% of the other government agencies run a 3-route system because, of course, the garbage companies make more money off that. Yeah. And that's become the status quo system. But the can rates now, with a new law that has been enacted in 2016 called SB 1383, all these government agencies have to get to 75% organics diversion by the year 2025. And that's broadly defined as soil, paper, wood, textiles, rubber, food waste, animal manure, and yard waste. So the idea of the law was to attack that black bin, the garbage bin, and get the organics out of that, because the theory being the organics are breaking down immediately in the landfill, producing methane, and that's going up in the atmosphere, which is not a good thing. Yeah. It's more of a climate change bill than it is a recycling bill from that perspective. Okay, so what has happened from that perspective is a lot of these waste companies that have franchise collection routes went back to their constituents and said, okay, we can meet this mandate by just putting the food waste in with the yard waste and collecting it that way, and we'll need a rate increase for that. So they bump their rates up again. So now you're seeing can rates in the $80 to $155 range outside of Placer County, where there's the typical 3-route system. So it's as much as 600% more costly to do it in 3 routes versus 2. Makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
So when I went to this facility 27 years ago, I was called in to replace a baler. They had a single ram baler and they wanted to put a 2-ram baler in because the big pieces of cardboard were bridging in the single ram baler. So I came in and I replaced that baler. And then I started looking at this system where they were sorting waste and recyclables. And I thought, wow, this is really super inefficient, because they were using people to do most of the sorting. It was a very simple mechanical system that was separating 10-inch minus from 2-inch minus, but all the other sorting was happening by people. They had a couple magnets at the end of the belts to pick up ferrous metal, but wow, was it expensive from a labor perspective, and a very nasty job for a human being to do, sort through other people's garbage, especially in the US. I mean, I'm looking at this thinking, this is crazy. So as I'm putting in this baler, watching material go through this facility, I had this vision that I called a vertically integrated environmental campus. And I thought, if I could figure out a way to mechanically separate everything in the waste stream into the individual constituent elements, and then I could apply technologies on the back end of that sorting system that would take those recovered feedstocks and turn them into a sustainable product or renewable energy, or as a feedstock to grow food, whatever, come up with all these different technologies that would work as a bolt-on that could be plug and play and work anywhere in the world. That would be a pretty cool thing. If I could do it, then I could eliminate the need for landfills. And I could reduce the carbon footprint dramatically. And I could somehow find a way to create a waste-free world. That was the goal. You know, again, 27 years ago. It was just a vision. How do you do that? And so I set out on this mission to figure it out. And essentially what I found by studying what's in the waste stream is that everything in the garbage or waste stream has a resource feedstock value to it. It's only garbage when you put it all into one bin and it's not separated. But if you think about it, every single material item in the waste stream, and there's up to 40 of them in the US waste stream, every single one of them, if you kept it separately, would have a resource feedstock value to be used as a replacement for raw material to make something, whether it's a product or whether it's to make energy. And in the US, the waste stream is about 85% carbon based.
Clear.
So based upon that premise, I thought, okay, I need to figure out how to separate everything. And if I could figure out how to separate everything using conventional equipment into highly concentrated feedstocks, then I could take those feedstocks and apply technologies that would convert them or manufacture them into new products or new energy, right? So that was the idea. And by this time, I had learned a little bit about patents because I had a client that came to me and wanted to do a conversion technology and sort through what was in the waste stream and use it as a fuel for conversion technology to make it into a liquid fuel. Okay. And they didn't know anything about what was in the waste stream, which is apparent because if you think about the waste stream, let's just take the United States, for example. You look at a residential neighborhood and the diversity of people that may live in that neighborhood. And difference in ages, social economic background, education level, consumption habits. You know, you might have one house where you've got a couple of older retirees that have no children that, you know, maybe eat in 3 times a day and don't do a lot of reading of newspapers or whatever. And they have a different waste stream than a young family that has young kids in diapers. You know what I'm saying? So everybody's different, and the garbage truck comes by and picks up everybody's garbage. It goes into one big compactor truck, and then it goes to a transfer station. So the waste stream is varying minute to minute to minute, right?
Exactly.
And so when these guys that had a conversion technology came to me and said, we want to separate various materials in the waste stream, we don't know what it is. We want to take the garbage and put it into a gasification unit and make a liquid fuel. I go, well, you know, you can't really do that. You can't just throw everything into a gasifier because there's all these different materials, all these different molecules, all these different, moisture contents for various materials. I mean, it's just this crazy potpourri of different things that are inside of the waste stream. So essentially, after a long talk with them, I said, what do you want for fuel properties? And they said, okay, we want 7,000 BTU or higher. We want 20% or less moisture content. We want 5% or less fines. And I said, well, that's really simple. That's a refuse-derived fuel system. They've been installing those and operating those in Europe for decades. It's just the paper, plastic, wood, textiles, and rubber that come out of the waste stream. So I designed a system for them. They think this is fantastic. This is great. And then they come back to me a couple months later and say, oh, well, we want to also separate out the wet organic, the food waste, yard waste from the stream, and then dry it and then reintroduce it to the fuel stream so we could get RIN credits for it.
Yeah.
And you figure out how to do that. And I said, sure, I can. Never seen anything like that, because in Europe, as you're probably familiar, they have a lot of mechanical biological treatment systems, which take the leftovers after recycling and then shred it up, dry it in drying boxes for 7 to 10 days, and then discharge it and then sort the wet organic that was formerly wet, now dry, from the dry organic, and they make a fuel product, either a pellet or a fluff, and they sell that to have it as a replacement for coal, for example.
Yes.
But I'd never seen anything where they would separate the wet organic from the dry organic from the inorganic right up front. So I designed a system. I went to a patent attorney and I said, I think this is pretty novel. Can you run a worldwide patentability search on it? And he did. And he came back and he said, well, George, this is kind of like the Wild Wild West. There's really nothing in the space. And I said, well, that stands to reason, because the industry is based on a landfill model. So who would come up with something innovative that would keep stuff out of the landfill that wasn't conventional recycling? I mean, recycling was only brought into focus 25 or 30 years ago because on the East Coast, it got so expensive to dispose of waste that people started demanding recycling. And then on the West Coast, they had legislation that fostered it. So it wasn't something that the big companies really paid a lot of attention to, other than, hey, this is a means for us to get more contracts and generate more money. Because if you look at it realistically, not in the fluff that the US EPA puts out, but the realistic numbers, if you look at the biggest two waste companies, Waste Management and Public Services, which control half the US waste stream, so it's about 460 million tons really generated in the US, and they control about 225 million of those tons. And on their websites, if you do the research, you find that between the two of them, they average about 5% recycling, not the 34% or 33% the US EPA states for only 260 million tons a year, which is not the correct number, okay? So if the top two companies that control half the US waste stream are at 5%, what's the US waste stream really from a recycling standpoint? And the reality is, of the 75 largest MRFs in North America, 68 of them are in the US, okay? And they're all in the major metropolitan areas, in the seaboard areas mostly, because most of the recyclables before were going out of the country to China, right?
China.
So out of those, and I've done the studies on it, last year they did 5.8 million tons of recycling, okay? Which is like less than 2% of the entire US waste stream. So if these big MRFs that are in the big places and the two biggest companies in the industry that control half the waste stream are, you know, between 2 and 5% recycling, that means the whole US can't be much further behind that. But all the numbers are kind of cooked. Everybody wants to have high diversion and say, we're doing all this other stuff, but the reality is they're not. And all you have to do is look at any overhead of any landfill in America. And what do you see? Nothing but paper and plastic, right? And you see organics and all that, but there's so much recycling, then why is all this stuff going to the landfills? Right? So anyway, I started out looking for a way to do this. And when I went to this patent attorney and they told me there was nothing in this space, I designed this first system and I applied for a patent on it.
Okay.
The first system was very, very simple, right? It was just a mechanical system to separate the wet organic from the dry organic from the inorganic. Okay. Really simple. 2 fuel streams and metals, okay, and glass. So I said, all right, if I could do this, then I got to figure out a way to separate all the grades of paper, all the grades of plastic, all the grades of metal, right? glass by color, food waste, yard waste, animal manure, wood, textiles, rubber, electronic waste, household hazardous waste, everything. I want to figure out how to separate everything. And I figured out a way to do it. Okay. And then I started applying for more and more patents. Well, now I have 12 patents in the US and 20 internationally in China, Hong Kong, Macau, India, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, the EU, and Japan. Okay. So the patents cover
Congrats.
thank you. It was quite an achievement, right? And what I found is that there's really nothing in the space. And so when you go through the whole patent process and office actions and you have to defend all the patents, I've seen every piece of art between the US and the international patents that's in the space whatsoever. So I've seen probably 300 different patents that are related to the space, and I've overcome all of them. There's just nothing that is threatening to the patent. So now the patents cover every which way you could possibly sort all these different materials out of the waste stream, and any multiple of 2 or more of conversion technology or manufacturing technologies go on the back end. So the whole EcoHub campus is covered in patents, both on the sorting and recovery side and on the production side of manufacturing goods or converting energy. So the simplest way to describe it would be the sorting system is kind of like a smartphone. And all the technologies that bolt onto the outside of it are like apps. So you can plug and play, you can make that smartphone do anything you want. If you just want to make energy, you can just make energy. You want to make products, you can make products. You can do anything you want to do. But the fact of the matter is, if you get to zero waste, which is what we do, then you need to have a multitude of different technologies. It's not a one size fit all. It's not like incineration is not renewable anyway. And it's the most foolish way to treat resources, right? Because you're burning them up for one-time use and you're not getting the full value out of them. Because my whole thing has always been get the full value out of a resource, by using technology. How can you get the full value? And is there a way through kind of this circular economy approach to have a continuous closed loop? Those are the technologies that I prefer. If there's a way to take plastic and turn it back into a plastic pellet or resin to be reused to make new plastic bottles or packaging, and then capture that again, and then completely circle it again over and over again. That's the way to do it, right? Now on paper, for example,
the same.
If you take a cardboard box and you recover it out of the waste stream, you're going to get 5 to 7 cycles of that box before the fibers become too small to attach themselves to each other to make a new box. Okay. But at the same time, if you look at one area, if you put an EcoHub in one area and you're recovering all that fiber over and over and over again, you go 7 times. Well, there's new stuff coming in all the time, right? So, on cardboard, Amazon basically doubled the amount of cardboard in the US waste stream, went from about 5% to 10 to 11%. It's not their fault. People are using Amazon and internet shopping, and it has to come in boxes or plastic, right, to your doorstep. So the odds of you running through the cycle on paper recovery are pretty slim, even in one area. Now on plastic, it's never ending, because there's technologies now that we have access to that will take plastics, every single type of it, okay, and either clean, flake, and pelletize it to food grade where you can go continuous, or to take some of the off-spec plastics back to a resin form that can be reused to make new plastic bottles. So it's a never-ending circle.
Exactly.
Right? So with all that being said, I knew one thing in applying for patents as an inventor, right? And personally, I'm a different kind of inventor in that I do my own disclosures. I write the majority of the patent. I have a patent attorney that I work hand in hand with. Okay. I do my own drawings and, work with him to design all the claim sets, and then work with him to prosecute all my patents. So when you have an office action, you go in there and you have to argue your case on every single claim. So one thing I learned about that is probably 80 to 90% of the stuff that's patented never sees the commercial light of day. It might be a really cool invention, but it doesn't make money, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is all my patents are process patents, not machine patents. So writing around them is next to impossible by the way that they're structured, because it's a system, right? It's a series of different machines and processes linked together in a specific order. It's not a machine. Like, for example, if you look at, an iPhone versus a Samsung phone. When the iPhone first came out, from an appearance standpoint, it looks so different than every other phone that was out there, right? And you could tell it from 20, 30 feet away. And if you saw the operating system on the opening page, right, it was so unique.
Yes.
There's thousands of patents on the iPhone, and then the Android, and then all these other phones that came out. And it'll be like the shape of the glass on the display cover, where it's curved a little bit, or it's got this dimension or that dimension, or it's got bevels in it, and little things in the operating system. But they're just finite differences that don't make any real difference in the phone performance or appearance. So now if you walk into a phone store and you stand in the middle of it and you look all around 360, can you tell which brand is which brand from that far away? No, you can't. I mean, they look exactly the same. They perform exactly the same. There's just these finite little things. Whereas a systems patent, if you say, shred, size separate, density separate, dimensionally separate, optically recover, how do you get around that, right? That it has to go through that process. So there's a big difference there. So once I had the designs down and started securing these patents, what I did is I went to the #1 manufacturer in the world. That's a systems integrator. And I said, okay, I need to get a guarantee out of every single manufacturer, because there's like 7 different manufacturers of different technology in this integrated system. I need to get a guarantee from every one of them of at least 95% recovery and 95% purity of every material recovered. So if it's a magnet manufacturer and I'm putting them in position 1, I want that magnet manufacturer to guarantee me 95% recovery of all the ferrous metal at that point, given a waste flow, a burden depth, a waste characterization, based upon all those factors. If I could give them that information, you guarantee me 95% recovery of this material and 95% purity of it. And then I go to the next manufacturer, the next manufacturer, the next manufacturer. Then I go back to the systems integrator and I say, okay, you take all these individual guarantees and you give me a systems guarantee, so I don't have a he said, she said thing where the magnet guy is saying, hey, this conveyor, this screen didn't feed me this composition of material at this rate. And so therefore my magnet is only getting 90%. I don't want that. I want you to integrate that whole thing. Well, it took me probably 8 years to get that done, but I got it done. So now I have the sorting system totally guaranteed, backed by now my big partner, which is a $50 billion international construction company with a full EPC wrap to get me mixed waste comes in, and I have guaranteed fully mechanical separation of 95% of every single material in that waste stream and 95% purity. Guaranteed mechanical. Okay, that's never been done before. So once I had that done, then I started looking at different manufacturers of technology to apply to the back end. So for example, we can put a paper mill behind this. So all the recovered paper, and in the US, it's about 25% of the incoming waste stream is paper and cardboard. Okay, so if you have a 2,000 ton a day plant, 500 tons a day of that is going to be paper. So we sort all the different grades of paper. So white paper, colored paper, coated, newsprint, aseptic packaging, craft, cardboard, etc. Like all those get separated. So we can go to our paper mill and we use the biggest manufacturers, the most successful manufacturers that have been out there making paper mill equipment forever, the same stuff that Pratt and Georgia Pacific and International Paper use, the same exact equipment. We have experts on our staff that are global experts in the manufacturing of paper and tissue products. And we say, okay, we want to make liner board, or we want to make parent rolls of kraft, or we want to make cardboard boxes. Whatever we want to make, we can make. We want to make paper towels. We want to make tissue products. We can do whatever we want to do with that recovered paper to take it to a finished product. And on the plastics, we separate all the different grades of plastic. We wash them, we flake sort them, we size reduce them, and we pelletize them or flake them and produce food grade products. So we have chemical conversion processes that'll take certain elements of the plastic stream, make it into a resin that then goes back into making new plastic. Food waste, yard waste, animal manure gets separated, goes through an anaerobic digestion process to produce renewable natural gas, power or fuel, purified water, and fertilizer that we can use. We have a relationship, a strategic partnership with a company that can grow food indoors, 100% organic, 100% sustainable, using the power, water, and fertilizer that we pull out of the waste stream.
Great.
So, we have renewable power generation through pyrolysis for wood and for textiles that we recover. We have textile technologies that'll separate the various fibers and textiles. It's just a whole library of back-end technologies that are plug and play, depending on what the market needs are and what's in the waste stream. If you go into the developing world, it's like 70 to 80% wet organic, 10 to 15% film plastic, 5 to 10% inerts, because people scavenge everything else. They scavenge the paper out, even matchbook covers that have food on them. That's valuable. They take that out. Any kind of rigid plastic, any kind of metal. That's not what's left over. What's left over is all this heavy organic stuff. So we can produce energy, separate the different materials, produce energy and oil, and then take all the bad environmental effects of that, which is massive amounts of leachate that come off those landfills into the rivers and streams that people eat out of, and the methane production.
Great.
So that's basically it. And the net effect is we could build 734 EcoHubs that take in 2,000 tons a day or 625,000 tons a year of waste in the United States of America and create a waste-free country. Okay.
Great.
All right. Zero waste going to the landfills. And at the same time, reduce the carbon footprint of the United States of America by 30 to 50%. And the way we get the reduction is not just, the methane recovery through anaerobic digestion doesn't get in the atmosphere, whereas it does in composting and open cell landfills, right? Yeah. And those are porous structures. So I've got video, you might have seen it on the website, standing on a landfill in South Vietnam where it's bubbling methane 8 hours after they dump the wet organic material. It breaks down that fast. So it's also, and the primary thing is not even the reduction in trucks picking up everything, but it is in the closed loop circular economy approach. Yes. Instead of using raw materials to make new products, we take feedstocks we recover out of the garbage and then use those to make new products. So you get, a 4-to-1 reduction in carbon emissions for every ton of garbage by utilizing those resources in the way in which we do. So we literally have, I've created a system that could actually collect all the plastic in the ocean and turn it all back into oil. So I've got the technology that will take every ounce of waste above ground, below ground, buried in landfills, because the molecules don't change.
Yes.
Floating in the rivers and streams and in the oceans, and repurpose 100% of it.
It's amazing. That's simply amazing, and congratulations, because it's something totally aligned on what we teach to our clients, and what we and the argument that usually we use, because the real circularity is possible only if starting from, as an example, from plastic, we regenerate new plastics. Starting from paper, we regenerate new paper. And starting from all the materials, it's possible to do something like that. And that's very, very interesting, because it's totally aligned on what we usually we do all around the world, because as you mentioned, the problem is not only in the US. The problem, we are living the same problem in Europe, in India, Africa. All the countries are living the same problem, because there is the wrong habit of the use of landfills, because it's a wrong habit, because we are throwing away important resources that is possible to use, that are possible to use to the production of new items, new goods, and new materials. For that reason, we are totally focused in the construction of, for our clients, we help the construction of the market of secondary raw materials, because working with company in waste management, we add them to the construction of a secondary raw material market, because it's the most important source of money, because the real business model to use in waste management is only a business model where there is the collection of the waste and the sales of secondary raw material. Because the price that you mentioned, the $96, $99, $100, $150 months for the collection of resources, because we are talking about resources.
Right.
It's not the real source of money for companies like that, but the real source will be the sales of secondary raw material. And for that reason, we are totally aligned on that.
So here's the issue, though, and we saw it with what happened in China, right? When the US started really recycling in 1995, okay, the Chinese built the largest paper mill in the world called Nine Dragons, okay, and then they sent over a consulting group, brokers, called American Chungnam, which was a division of Nine Dragons.
Yeah.
And when single stream recycling really started in the US, the garbage companies were using high compaction garbage trucks to pick up the recyclables. So because they wanted to crush as much as they could into the truck, right, before they went to the recycling center. Well, what was happening is the glass bottles were shattering, and then the glass shards were impregnating themselves into the paper. Yeah. And so when it went to the mills, that glass is very abrasive to the pulper systems, which are made out of metal. And the US paper manufacturers got upset and said, like, we don't want to buy this stuff. It's garbage, right? And we're getting a lot of other things inside of the pulper, and it's destroying our equipment. Well, at the same time, China descends upon the United States with their brokers saying, we'll buy that crap from you. Yes. They didn't care. They just want to get market share, right? And over the course of the next, 5 to 10 years, from 1995 till the early 2000s, they ended up capturing like 95% of all the curbside paper that was generated and curbside plastic that was generated. Yes. Well, then what did they do? They ended up playing games with the commodity market pricing, right? They said, oh, you're sending us all this garbage and everything else. And they come up with the green fence and the sword, the whatever it was called, green sword or whatever. These different policies saying, oh, you're dumping all your garbage on us and blah, blah, blah. And then the US waste companies use that as fodder to go back to their client cities and go, oh, you bad people out there, you're putting all this garbage in the recycling. And it was complete and total fabrication nonsense for the Chinese to save face that the US garbage companies took advantage of to blame their customers. So look, last time I checked, the customer puts stuff in the recycling bin and it goes to a MRF that's owned by the big garbage companies. The MRF's responsibility is to separate all the stuff that's combined to produce clean grades of whatever. It's not the customer's fault. It's the MRF's fault. If you're delivering crap to the market, which they weren't, because the Chinese were saying, oh, you're dumping all your garbage on us, which was crazy. We want ISRespect, which is 1/4% outthrows on a paper bag. Well, you can't get that in a newspaper facility, that's cutting trim stock.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have enough dust and other stuff that's going to get them in the bale. A half of 1% is nothing.
Yeah.
But, it's funny how the whole system works, right? The status quo system, because everybody's interlocked. The paper manufacturers are interlocked with the garbage companies here that supply them with all their paper, right? And it's the same thing internationally. And again, the problem with commodity markets is you're not getting the full value out of that because you're selling that to a broker who's then selling that to a mill, and the mill's the one making all the money off of it. If you sell mixed paper into the marketplace, and it was as low as free a couple of years ago in 2018 when China closed the market. Market out. But what the garbage companies did, and this is kind of sick, in my opinion, they realized that the first contracts that they had with these cities were called zero price floor contracts, where they said, we're going to charge you $65 a ton to sort the recyclables, but we're going to deduct that off the sale price. So if the average price of recyclables in America was $175 or $200 a ton, they'd take the $65 off of it and say, okay, we got $110 left to split, and you get 50%, we get 50%. Well, everybody, the garbage company was making a fortune off that one. When the market dipped below, $80 or so a ton on average, that's for everything you buy. They go, uh-oh, we're losing our shirts on this because it's costing us more money to sort it than we're selling it for. So what we're going to do is get smart, and we're going to charge the cost of capital per ton, the cost of operations per ton, and the profit margin we want per ton as a processing fee. So they all got together and raised their processing fees essentially from zero to, about $85 to $150 a ton. So if they sold commodities for $30, who cares? They're making their money off the processing fee. And it was kind of like, I don't know if you remember years ago, the airlines started charging for baggage because the cost of jet fuel had gone way up, and they all did it in unison, right? Everybody's charging for baggage because of the price of jet fuel. And then after that, the price of jet fuel went down, but everyone's still paying for bags, right? Yeah. So it was the same thing with this, because now after China closed the market in 2018, what happened was there was a lot of investment that was made in paper mills in the US to pick up that supply, because 80-90% of that paper was going to China. So they made all these investments, and now these big companies came in and built paper mills, and now the price is going up again. So now the price of cardboard's at what, 175 or something like that. Mixed paper is close to $100. It's going back up. And then plastic, the thing with plastic is you got PET and HDPE, right? Those are high value plastics.
Exactly.
All the rest of them aren't worth anything. So in the recycling programs, they usually only will include PET and HDPE. They don't want film, right? Because that wraps around their disc screens and causes major problems for them. It costs a lot of money to, cut the film out from between the discs. So they don't want to do that. So those kinds of plastics don't have a home anywhere, right? And then food waste and yard waste in a lot of places doesn't get recycled. Anyway, we went back to the whole, it's about 5% anyway. So it's not doing any good. But the commodity prices, the problem with that is, and where you see it work the most is in the developing world, right? Yeah. As we said, you go to the landfills, what's at the landfill? Well, every scrap of paper is gone. Every scrap of rigid plastic's gone. Every bit of metal's gone. What's left over is the stuff that doesn't have any value, food waste and film plastic. That's most of it, right? And broken up pieces of inert. Well, with my system, guess what? Food waste is worth something because it's 70 to 80% water.
Yes.
And you can purify it and make drinking water and agricultural water out of it. And then you get fertilizer, and then you get energy. And they need renewable energy. So if you take something that's an environmental nuisance and you make it into something that is a positive form of renewable energy, water, and you can grow food, and you take the plastic and you convert it back into oil to make new plastic, guess what we could do? we could pay people
Exactly.
for that element of the garbage. We could at EcoHub pay them for the food waste and yard waste, pay them for the plastic. And guess what? There wouldn't be an ounce of plastic in the 10 rivers, 8 in Asia and 2 in Africa, that feed the plastic in the ocean, where you've got a sea fill that's twice the size of Texas of floating plastic. That wouldn't be there if you stopped it at the source.
Exactly.
So if you can pay for that, which we can do, and that's what I want to do, is build these plants all over the world where we can pay people for that material. Just like even in America, we can charge zero. We can pay people for mixed garbage.
Yeah.
Why? Because we make $1,000 a ton on average when we turn it into. Now, not everything do we make that kind of money on. We make a lot of money on paper and plastic. We don't make some money on metals, depending on what it is. Not a lot on glass, not a lot on wood, not a lot on textiles, not a lot on food waste. But when you put all these things together, it makes economic sense. And the way I look at it is kind of like in the US, if you own property and oil and gas is found underneath it, what do you get? You lease it to an oil company and you get mineral rights. They pay you a percentage of the value of those minerals. Well, my idea is, well, if these resources are really valuable to me and I go to a city, why can't I pay them a resource rights payment? So, hey, you don't have to pay to dispose of it. I'll pay you for a small portion of the value that it is. I'll put my plant in. You can go from a 3-route system to a 1-route system. You don't need 2. You can put everything in one bin, reduce the cost to your customer, get to zero waste, cut your carbon footprint by 30 to 50%. Why not? And generate money because of it.
Exactly. And that's the approach. Consider that we are supporting a company, our client in Europe, that is doing the same in a small part of hazardous waste, because it's possible to do, and not only on municipal waste. And this company, as an example, purchase refrigerant gases all around Europe, and they convert these gases in other molecules that is possible to use in different ways, or they regenerate these refrigerant gases to other application and other equipment, and they pay the waste because they purchase the waste. We created a marketing strategy where we educate people, the people in maintenance and people in refrigeration production, about the value of their waste. And for that reason, we are avoiding the dispersion of this gas in the air, because in the largest part of case, this gas.
You're talking about Freon.
Exactly. These gases have higher GWP or GHG gas, and for the GHG gases, and for that reason, we are working on that. And the company invests a little amount of money, but the company bring tons and tons of waste that is able to regenerate and resell in the market, gaining money. And that's one of the most useful approach. And for that, as I told you, is your approach is totally aligned on what we are doing for our clients. I have a question, which is in your in function of your system, which is your I don't know, the ideal client for your system?
Well, the ideal client for my system is any city, government agency, country, state, or waste company that controls the waste. So the natural question that I got asked all the time is, where have you done this before, and where's your first plant?
Okay.
The answer to that is everything that I'm doing has been done before and has been operating for decades. The real difference, outside of the real sophisticated sorting system, but the real difference is that we're putting all the technologies on one campus, not separating them all. When you do recycling and you recover paper, it goes to a broker, goes to a mill. Most of the times it's not in the same country. It's certainly not in the same zip code. or state usually that you're operating in, right? Same thing with the plastic, same thing with everything else. It's going all over the place. And I'm saying, no, just put it all in one campus. So it's almost like having the mine and the production facility in one area. So again, there's no black boxes in this. Yes, the mechanical sorting system is patented. Yes, the whole campus is patented, but all the equipment in the system is operating in the field. The patents are on the way in which everything's arranged, right? So the sequencing of the machine technology. So there's no black boxes. It's all commercially operating. It's all guaranteed. The problem that I've had is, quite simply, I approached the big waste companies in America and internationally 15 years ago with this idea of saying, look, I have invented this technology that would make your landfills obsolete, where you don't have to take anything and put it in the landfill anymore. You don't have to cap them, which is where the money comes in. And you could recover 100% of what's going into them and make money on it. And my proposition to you is, you put up no money, you take no risk. You simply give me a contract for 2,000 tons a day of waste in any specific market. Let me build this plant and I'll pay you for your garbage. You know, you're making $40 a ton in EBITDA. You make $10 a ton off disposal and recycling. $30 of it comes from collection. I'll pay you $20 or $40. So you can 3 or 4x your current profit margin on disposal and recycling for doing nothing, taking no capital risk, no environmental risk, nothing, you know, no labor risk, nothing. Just let me build these at your facilities. And so every single one of them had me go through an extensive vetting process, one in particular, but the other one's semi-vetting, where they learned everything about all my secrets and how I do it all. And then they said, take a hike. We're not interested. In fact, one of them said, well, we're interested after a 1-year vetting period where they couldn't shoot any holes in the business model or the financial model or the engineering model. And they said, and it was all based upon me doing a revenue share with them. That's why I got involved in the vetting process in the first place. And at the end of the day, they completely reversed it on me and said, oh, well, you know what? We don't want to do your business model. We want to do our business model where we just buy the technology from you and pay you a small royalty. And I go, well, that's not why we started talking in the first place. I'm not selling you my technology that I've spent my whole life developing. That's not happening. And so what's happened over the last 15 years, this is remarkable, but it's true. I have literally been in front of every single major garbage company in America, every single one of them, all the way down to the large regional players. And here's the deal. The smaller companies that don't have landfills, if you look at the two biggest companies, Waste Management and Republic Services, they control probably 80 to 90% with Waste Connections of the landfill disposal in America. Either through ownership and operation of their own landfills or contract operation of government-owned landfills. That's the way it works. So the smaller guys underneath them that don't own landfills that are in their market areas, will not mess with them and do business with us because they will get taken advantage of, trying to pick my words correctly, taken advantage of by the big garbage companies on disposal, right? So it's this whole hierarchy of a monopoly that extends across not just the US, but the whole world, because the international companies that control the waste streams don't want me, because if I build one plant, just one, who's going to want the status quo? What city or government agencies in America is going to say, oh, I want to have this system that's 3 routes and 6 times more expensive when there's this one system that requires 1 route, no separation, gets me to zero waste, reduces my carbon footprint by 30 to 50%, and that costs us nothing. We get all these green jobs and all this other stuff. They can't compete, right? So their whole thing for the last 15 years is stop me at by any means possible from building the first plant. And I've been to over 200 meetings and groups of meetings with government officials, cities, counties, states, countries, and all the largest garbage companies in America and the world, and been in front of people and companies and governments that control 2.34 billion tons of waste on the planet. They say there might be 2.5 billion, but I've been in front of all these people over 15 years, and over 200 times have gotten shot down in flames. All because I'm trying to pay for garbage, do the right thing environmentally, cut the carbon footprint of the planet in half, and clean the whole earth without costing anybody a single penny. But that's how it's me, one guy with no cash resources, just an iron will and determination to do the right thing and save the world with this technology that I've invented, because it is save the world technology. And I can't get garbage to save my life. And I keep trying, I'm like the Terminator. They keep trying to kill me, and I keep getting back up. But the good news is there are some things going on right now where I believe within the next 6 to 12 months, I'm going to have contracts to build my first plants.
Great.
And when that happens, it's going to change the whole world. Because when that happens, guess what? Now I've got the leverage to create partnerships with people and say, let's do this together. You know, let's stop fighting and start doing the right thing. If you can make more money for your shareholders and you can save your residents and customers money, and you can do the right thing for the environment, why not do it? Why not do it? You know, we all live on this planet. Let's work together and stop fighting each other and let innovation take hold. And if I can do one thing, which is to show the world that everything's possible, which is what I tell my kids. There's no such word as impossible. Get that out of your vocabulary. Everything's possible. I'm the son of an electrician. Okay. I don't come from wealth. I sacrificed everything I have. I sold every asset I have, including my kids' education fund for college, to do this. And I'm gonna do it. And it's people like you and me that will change the world, because you're trying to do the right thing with your clients. I'm trying to do the right thing. But you know, the problem that you got, which is the same problem I've got, okay? The people that control the landfills want to feed those landfills. They don't want to keep stuff out of there. Because if they were really serious about it, let's be honest. If I'm a huge garbage company and I've got a couple million tons a year of paper that I'm recovering, why the heck do I not have my own paper mill? Why am I selling it to people that are outside of my industry and getting $100 a ton when I could make it into a paper product and make $2,000 a ton? Why am I selling plastic to processors that are washing and pelletizing it and making $1,000 or $2,000 a ton, and I'm getting $400 a ton for it? Why am I doing that? Like, why wouldn't I want to mine my landfills and recover but they don't, because it's easy and they have a control market and there's no competition. So.
because it's the status quo. Unfortunately, that's the status quo, and for that reason, it's difficult. And we found and we continue to find a lot of difficulties in the implementation of our strategies, because usually companies prefer to live in the same situation without changes, without sharing the educational concepts with people, with the citizens, because it's easier to collect waste and put waste in the landfill to obtain new development for the landfills, new possibility of landfill. That's easier than change the approach, because behind there are interests, and there are the largest interest of this world, because that's the main problem. And at the same time, as you told, I'm sure that this is the only way. If we educate people about the real value of their waste, there is people prefer to sell the waste than to throw away in the street, in the river, on whatever you want. And that's the most important problem. And for that reason, I think that governments all around the world that are talking about zero waste or about waste reduction or climate change are not doing nothing, because they are maintaining the status quo because they prefer to live in this condition because they gain money. That's the only way.
Look, it's always about the same thing, right? Follow the money. It doesn't matter if you're in the US or in foreign governments, it's all about follow the money, right?
Yeah.
So, in the US, these relationships with the garbage companies, between cities and these garbage companies, is ironclad, because they either do franchise contracts where they're paying them money, or they're charging them money and they're providing a service, or they're providing the disposal, or they're processing the recyclables. So, the companies that have those contracts, they pay people for campaigning, and they get in office, and then there's favors done. That's how it works. I mean, that's the reality. You can pretend it some other way, but the status quo is very well entrenched. And in the US, guess what the largest employer of the Teamsters union is? The garbage companies. Right. So they have 3 routes. They don't want to have one route because the Teamsters unions are not going to be happy about it. Exactly. So I'm not just fighting the garbage companies. I'm fighting the Teamsters union. I'm fighting the paper making industry. I'm fighting the plastics processing industry, the composting industry, all the lawyers and the people that are consultants to that industry, and the government officials that create these laws that aren't really doing what they're supposed to do. So in California now, SB 1383, because the garbage company influence, right? It was supposed to be sort the black bin, but now they've changed the law where all you have to do is put the food waste in with the yard waste. Well, guess what? The state of California did studies with NASA, overflight studies of these food waste composting piles next to open cells of landfill. It's the same amount of methane escaping every day. So this whole law that now, 95% of the citizens in California are paying 20, 30, 40, 50% more to comply with is creating more of a methane problem than before.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And here I am going, wait a minute. All of that organic gets captured and put into anaerobic digestion with oxygen free to produce renewable energy. Why won't you talk to me? But I can't get the state of California or Cal Recycle to even talk to me about this. It's like really maddening. It's like I'm one guy against all these industries, all these unions, all these lawyers, and then governments starting at the local level. Because look, here's the thing. I've been to small towns before at the request of associates of mine to just make a presentation to city council. And I go there and it's like I'm Darth Vader. There's 50 people in the city council meeting that normally has no people in it, telling the city council members what a bad guy I am. I mean, because you think about this, if you live in a city, in a residential area, right? And your house gets burglarized and you happen to know the mayor and you call the mayor up and go, I called the police. They haven't showed up here for 2 days. My house got burglarized. I want some action. Mayor calls the chief of police and goes, get some officer out there to investigate this. And they come. Try not picking the garbage up for a week and see what happens. Every single person's calling City Hall. Yeah. Right. So the whole thing about garbage is nobody really realizes how much value there is in there. All they want to do is, I want to put it out the curb, get it taken away, and that's it, right? They don't think about anything. They're not in the business like me and you, right? So they get away with this. The other reason they get away with it is because if you look at your garbage bill, even in California, where it can be as much as $150 a month. Well, if your garbage bill is $150 a month and your mortgage is $10,000 a month, and your heating bill is $2,000 a month with your water, and you're paying $150 for garbage, who cares? It's a few cups of Starbucks, right? They're not going to go complain to the city about my garbage bill. And what the cities do is say, oh, it's these new government regulations from the state of California. We have no choice. And meanwhile, I'm going, wait a minute, I can save you 600%, get you to zero waste in do the right thing for the environment and I can't get any traction. Look, that's all going to change once I get one contract for one plant. And when that happens, guess who's going to have the microphone? Me.
Yes.
And I'm going to call the whole system out because I don't care, right? I've fought it for 15 years. And you know, what's right is right. The world deserves this. I mean, the whole world's talking about climate change and the effects of it, right? Well, guess what? You can't just stop using hydrocarbons. You can't. Okay. I'm in the business. There's not 1% renewable fuel or energy to power this country. Not 1% is available today. So what are you going to do? Just cut off the use of hydrocarbons and go, okay, now what? Well, until you have 100% capacity on renewables, you can't cut off hydrocarbons. You can't, we're all going to die. You know, we'll die in 2 weeks if you cut that off. So let's take a sensible approach to this because it's all about offsets, right?
Yeah.
If we can take all the resources on the planet that are considered garbage and use them as feedstocks to make new products, and we can cut the carbon footprint by 30 to 50%, isn't that a smart way to go about it?
Yeah.
You know, rather than these asinine things that I see, like, oh, we're going to sequester carbon, we're going to bury carbon. You think that's going to do any good? I mean, really? No. Let's stop using the energy that it takes to take raw materials and make new products. You know, think about this, okay? Think about the life cycle analysis of a plastic bottle. You're going to go extract oil from some faraway place, right? You're going to put that into a pipeline or into a tanker, into a truck, and you're going to transport it at a great distance to the refinery. Then you're going to apply all this money and all this energy to crack it and turn it into various subsets. Then, you know, if you're taking plastic, you're going from oil to gas to solids, right? And then you're going to ship those pellets to a plastic bottle making facility where they're going to use energy and they're going to make that plastic bottle. Then they're going to ship that empty bottle to a plastics or a bottle filling factory to fill it with liquid. Then it's going to get capped. Then it's going to get put into a box. Then it's going to go into a warehouse. And it's going to go onto the back of a truck to a distribution warehouse. Then from the distribution warehouse to the shopping center. And then it's going to be bought by a customer and then thrown in the landfill and it's gone. Whereas that same bottle comes to EcoHub in the middle of the city, we recover it, turn it back into oil, take it right back to the local refinery, it goes back into oil, and a closed loop. What makes more sense? So if we could take all the plastic in the world, it's 450 million tons of it a year being generated, and people blame the plastics manufacturers. Well, isn't it the people that are throwing it away and littering with it? I mean, we need plastic for packaging. There's nothing that's more efficient than that. It's not bad as long as you can recover it and turn it into new products, right? So if we could just have all the plastic, the 450 million tons eventually go back into making new plastics over and over and over again. We don't have to use hydrocarbons to make plastic.
Exactly. That's totally true. And I completely agree with you. The real problem is that plastic is the most reusable product. And the only problem is that we are starting now in some cases to reuse it.
Well, right. But there has to be technology that will enable you to do it. And I've got relationships with strategic partners that have that technology now that could take all the off-spec plastic and turn it back into oil to make new plastic. So, okay, now, like we said before, you go to the developing world and say, I'll pay you 10 cents a pound for film plastic. Those rivers would be clean like that. There wouldn't be a scrap of plastic on the side of the road.
Absolutely. Because people don't throw it away. And that's the most important point.
Just throwing it away because there's no value to it. Right
exactly.
If there's a value to it, then they won't throw it away. But the technology has to get out there where there's that opportunity. So that's what I've been fighting. And that's what I'm going to do, because I'll get one plant, the world's going to see it. And I'm going to be with my bullhorn going, let's build 300 or 3,500 of these plants around the world and solve this problem. Let's solve the climate change problem instead of talking about it. Oh my God, we're all going to die. Well, okay. How are we going to solve the problem? You're not going to do it through policy.
Exactly.
Policy doesn't work. Look at California. They have all this recycling policy, all this organics policy. What's it done? Nothing.
Nothing.
The state
Nothing.
brags and says we're at 50% or 52% recycling. They are full of nonsense. It's not even close. Okay.
Yeah.
They say that. The truth needs to be told. That's what I've dedicated my life to. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save the planet. And this is going to happen. And I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to give up because it's too important for that. If I die broke trying, so what? At least I tried. And I have the plan. I created a plan that shows how to do all this stuff, all of it, oceans, landfill mining, above ground, all of it in a 274 page or slide plan. And it's all using existing equipment. I have the plan to clean the whole planet and save the world. And it just takes one plant, and I'm going to do it.
We try to do it because we try to do it. That's the most important point. I have the same vision, and I'm trying to do it the same because I'm sure about what I'm doing, and that's the only way to solve it. Because the problem, the other actions are palliatives of the problem, and are not solutions. And that's the most important point. And I'm sure that in the next, in a very close future, we'll arrive to that to think about the real solution, because we are living under a lot of palliatives that are not solving the problem, and we are cutting our lives for that. We are cutting our ideas. Thinking that the climate change is something unsolvable, but we have the solutions, and that's the main.
Well, it's when you're a pioneer and you're trying to bring about change. I mean, essentially, what we're talking about is changing the operating system of several industries that are all interlinked, right? Changing the whole operating system.
Clear.
And people are resistant to that. Companies are resistant to it because they have their own little fiefdoms. They have their stock and their shareholders, and everything is just set. They don't want to change their whole operating system. They don't want to do that because it's scary for them, but it's also, it's scary from more than one perspective. It's scary that if somebody brings this kind of technology into the fold, then their operating system becomes obsolete.
Exactly.
That's the way they look at it. What I'm trying to convince them of is I'm not in the collection business.
Exactly.
Why can't I be the processor? Think of me as the new landfill. For sake, you can make more money. And if you want to still collect 3 routes, do it. I don't care. I mean, I can sort recycling. I can sort yard waste. I can sort garbage. I can sort all of it together. Doesn't matter. Let's just work together and do the right thing, and you'll make more money. I mean, they know who I am. Trust me, at the highest levels, they know who I am. And they keep thinking they're going to stop me and kill me, but they're wrong. I'm not going to stop. And I'm going to get that one done. And then when I do, it's going to be, let's work together. I'll forget about the past. I don't care. Business is business. Let's work together. And if you still don't want to work with me, then I'm going to go out and get all the business myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the right thing's going to happen. The main thing I want to show people is it doesn't matter what it is. You should be allowed, especially in America of all places, to be an innovator.
Yeah.
And to be able to take your own risk as an entrepreneur and say, I have a great solution and I shouldn't get stepped on and destroyed by huge industry and companies and the status quo because I'm trying to do the right thing and I have a good idea. Why can't I compete like everybody else to bring innovation? How else can innovation survive and entrepreneurs survive if they don't have that opportunity to bring something to market that doesn't fit within the status quo? And most people wouldn't be as hard-headed or as relentless as I am and be trying this for 15 years to get shot down in flames every single time. They go, forget this, I'm going to go find something else to do, which is what my wife's been telling me to do for but I want to be able to kick that door down and show the world that, you know what, innovation has its place, and it can come from the little guy, and if I can break that door down and expose that, even in the garbage industry for other industries, wouldn't that be a great thing? Wouldn't that be a great epitaph to say, I help change the world and save the environment and lift people out of poverty? Because really that's where I'm coming from on this in the developing world. Why should people live in filth?
Yeah.
Why are people going to landfills to live on landfills to pick out little, families? That breaks my heart. Like, it shouldn't be that way.
Sure.
And if you could take that garbage and use it as a fuel to make renewable energy, drinking water, and food and fertilizer for people, and then clean up their environment and provide opportunities for people, wouldn't that be great if you could lift them out of poverty and clean up their environment? Wouldn't they be a lot happier? Wouldn't that be a much better thing for us to export from the US and military aircraft and bombs? Because people usually don't get into wars unless there's a poverty element to it, right? Usually. That's not always the case, but I don't know. I just think you get one shot in life.
Yeah.
Why not go for it? And if at the end of my life, all I get is how far I've gotten, and I create this plan and I fought this noble battle to do the right thing, it's still a success.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I completely agree with you. Great.
Well, it's great to meet you.
Great to meet you.
I commend you for your work.
Sorry,
I said it's great to meet you, and I commend you for your work.
Or consider that it's my pleasure to meet you and to learn about you, because we are facing the same problem. Only to be clear, because as I told you, we face the same problem in a different perspective, because we help our clients because we are able to help our clients, but they search all the time and all the days to change the strategies that we are implementing, because they want to avoid the change of their business model. But at the same time, this is the only direction that is possible to have. And we are working a lot with small companies, because we are working a lot with small waste management companies. And it's interesting because we are finding a different approach, especially in some areas all around the world, but it's not easy. And it needs time, it needs energies, and but we are completely aligned on what you say. And for that reason, it's first of all my pleasure. Second, I would like to invite you to my podcast, Marketing for Waste, to talk about your solution, if you are if it's something that is interesting for you, because it's a free podcast that where we talk about the waste problem and the waste solution, and all around the world, and how it's possible to solve the waste problem that people is facing all around the world. And I don't know, I'll send to you a message, an email with some dates, and we fix and we schedule the best date for you to record the podcast. Is free. It's a 30-minute podcast, and I insert all the details inside the email. In that mode, you can watch it and listen before the recording. And it's something that we use as a system to promote the responsibility about what we are living and the problem, and how to solve the problem, because the solutions are available in the market, and why no one is using this kind of solution. And that's my main idea. And I'm sure that it will be great also to collaborate if we found the strategy and the possibility to collaborate together, because I'm sure that there is a lot to do all around the world about this topic, and that's one of the most important points.
Well, I would be delighted to join the podcast and help. And I think that once we have a plant operating, obviously, and we can show people, then why not be able to work with you and your clients and say to them, hey, you want to do something? Come see this plant, wherever it is in America, and we can work with EcoHub and bring the technology to where you're at, because we have that solution for any size company that would help them create market share.
Yeah.
Once they see it working and all that, and we'll have all the technologies, and they come and look at it, and you say, okay, we'll work with them wherever it is in the world, because I want to go all over the world. So I think the collaborative partnership in that way would be excellent for both of them.
Thanks a lot for listening, and see you in the next episode of Marketing for Waste podcast.